now become Chief Development Officer over at Radisson Hotel Group. I've been sitting on this information for a little while. It's finally public as of this morning.
Our good friend,
what?
You didn't even tell me.
It's one of those things. Sometimes I'm told
just
stuff
so you
I'm not
know,
allowed to tell anybody. The journalism code.
Where I grew up, my neighborhood. What are you? Is he with us or is he with me? If he's with us, that means we all know. If he's with me, that means the other ones don't know. So you have to let me know based on mafia terms. Are you with me or are you with us?
Right. Well, I'm thoroughly confused about who to be with at this point, but I do know I can keep the secret.
Part of the family. If you're just with me, it's not as good. So you should be with us, so I should know. All right.
So don't tell anyone, Anthony.
I won't. What did he do before? And what
all right. So Phil Hugh was the number 2 development guy over at Red Roof. He's now going to be the Chief Development Officer over at Radisson Hotel Group, which, as you guys know, Jim Alderman, their CEO, he came on right in the middle of this crisis, is revamping the organization. He's going over there. I think another guy, Bill Hall, is going over there, and I understand a few more people may be going as well over there. So that'll be interesting to see how that develops.
There's going to be a lot of shifting.
A lot of shifting.
Oh my God. 2021 is the next.
Are we there yet? Please?
The next time, January. So no, actually it'll probably be January 2022 before you see CES in Vegas again.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that. Well, there was some speculation that the COVID crisis really got kicked into high gear because of that event last year. So It doesn't surprise me. Yes. So it doesn't surprise me, number one, that they're worried about any negativity around that. But number two, well over 100,000 people.
Tell everybody what
CES is. Pardon?
Tell everybody what CES is.
Consumer Electronics Show is probably the number 1 event in the entire country. And for those of you who don't know.
No, entire world.
Okay. Sorry about that. I should have said even bigger than ITB?
Yep. Biggest event, financially biggest event in the world.
Okay, I was thinking of it for people.
$300 million just got pushed off the table.
Sick. And that is going to destroy everybody. And this is the type of thing. I tried once to go to Vegas that happened to be during the CES event. I didn't even realize it was the CES event. And I had a friend who was an executive at a casino, and he was going to try to get me a room, but the entire resort was sold out. So we wound up getting me a place in an off strip type of property. But I got interested in seeing what the rates are for some of these rooms. And like a typical room at a mid-scale-ish type of casino resort would be selling for over $1,000 a night. So extrapolate that over 120,000 rooms. If that's just a basic room, suites are going for $5-10 grand a night. Jesus Christ.
Listen, I walked in to try to get a hotel room during that show, and they walked me off the strip to Utah.
That's right. That's what I mean by off strip.
New Jersey.
I literally, thanks to my friend for getting me comped at this place, but I'm not so sure I should be thankful because just the previous week, 2 security guards were killed on the at that casino resort over there. So I felt like it was a little sketchy, but at least I had a place to sleep.
So I'm very interested in Christine Vogt Davids. Know you from elementary school. Give me more.
And I want to know, are you with us or are you with him?
Tell me what school was it? PS52? Was it Showbank? Right. Where was it? Was it 209? Was it Reform School? Was it Rikers Island? Tell me where we know each other.
Rikers Island.
So now the implications of that, again, I'm going to kind of go through it real quick, and then we're going to get on to our guest. And who's our guest today? Oh, my God.
Oh, Mr. Michael Shindler, Four Corners Advisors, where he is the president. He's been on the show, I think, twice before so far. This time we're having him join us for a solo appearance because, yes, we're just that impressed with him.
Yeah,
you don't get too excited there, Michael.
Kimberly got better impressed than he did. So I don't know, Michael. You got to choose to fill. But you know what? Kimberly sent me like a 3-paragraph thank you note.
Yes, I got to respond to that. I got one as well.
Yeah, right. Now we have to now it's stressful because you and I are in 3-paragraph responders. I gave her 2 sentences, but I really meant the 2 sentences I wrote.
I'm much better. What I really love is like LinkedIn will give you a few choices you can do. And I like to do the little thumbs up with people too.
Yeah, don't ever give me a thumbs up. What the class, Mrs. Weiss's class, was it 3rd grade? I left in 4th grade, and Mr. Lichter, I think his name was my music teacher. and he brought us to the gym,
Mhm.
and we were standing in line. Shellbank, we were in each other's classes. Okay, tell everybody what grade student I was. I thought you said PS52, Christine. So anyway, so Mr. Link, I'm about to leave fourth grade in the middle of the year to go from PS52 to PS209 to PS52 because we were moving not too far in the same neighborhood, but across town. So I'm screwing off. I was a good kid, but I was screwing off because I'm leaving. I'm going tomorrow. Done. I'm out.
Of course,
so off. Well, he grabbed me by my shirt like this. I'll never forget as long as I live. He got back and he looked me in the eye and he said the greatest words at that time in my life, and something that has stuck with me to this day.
Yeah.
Christine, you're bringing this up. It's getting emotional. He said, "It's not over till it's over. You belong to me until it's over." And I never forgot that. When I leave a job, everything, Miss Wise, and Miss McCoy. Okay, I had the biggest crush on Miss McCoy. Like, Miss McCoy was my first love. We were married. We spent 40 years together in my mind when I was 9 years old. Miss McCoy, I used to sit there like this. I used to get stars all the time. And I would always win like the best, kid because I always got these stars because I was just like this. So, Christine, I probably remember you if I see a picture of you, but I can't see a picture of you right now. But anyway, thank you for the trip down memory hill. Do you remember Noni Citarelli, who I don't know her maiden name, but unfortunately she just passed away. But do you remember Noni?
Hey, anybody out there remember Mrs. Kaplan, my kindergarten teacher? Anyone? I had Miss Sabato in second grade, and you know what? She had a twin sister who I had in 8th grade math.
Really? Well, if anybody knows Mrs. Green, she's probably dead by now because she was like 150 years old back then. Well, Mrs. Green left me back in first grade because I was sick and I didn't really know my ABCs. So she left me back in first grade. So I was going into Jonathan Schwartz. He's still my best friend. Jonathan Schwartz is still my best friend. So anyway, so we walk. I walk into the schoolyard and everybody's in second grade. I'm still in first grade. I didn't know that. And so Mrs. Green could have kind of helped the kid out. I was in the hospital. I was sick. I didn't know my ABCs. I still don't know my ABCs. Didn't hold me back. All right. So what the hell's going on?
Hold on. Yes, I didn't eat paste, Daniel. That's insulting. I actually ate a chapstick once for $1 in 5th grade. So I did have that. I figured if you put it on your lips, it couldn't kill you. So why not make a buck? So I was close.
We used to have this kid, a little heavyset kid that used to eat paper all day long. All day long.
Which is weird because I think Nutrisystem is putting out a new paper meal. So you would think it would help him lose weight there. All right, let's move on. I know. Yeah, I deserve that look.
Okay.
Maybe I.
He sold the sanctuary management contracts. I sent him a note on LinkedIn and said, we have two things in common. We're in the hotel business, and we both went to Sam Barth School in Metairie, Louisiana. I got a note back from him within 10 minutes. My son-in-law now works at that property.
That's awesome.
Listen, high school is one thing, college is one thing, but when you went to grade school with somebody, there's something about that. Like, I know a guy I just spoke to the other day, knows me since I'm 5. Okay, and knows me pretty well since I'm 5. There's very few people on this earth that know your history, your personal history, since you're 5. And there's some kind of connection there that just no one else has. Like Jonathan Schwartz and Andrew Rubin and those guys know me since like 5th to 6th grade. Like there's a connection there. Like they knew me when I was in the Air Force. Like it's just there's something special about it.
I'll tell you what I was hoping growing up. I was hoping when I was in college and was in the Sigma Pi fraternity that would get me into some sort of secret success society going forward, because we had that secret handshake and all that good stuff. Never helped at all. Not a single time in my entire
career. Is so secret that nobody knows about it.
That was a great burn. I love it.
One of the things I want to talk about, and you mentioned before we went on camera, is valuations. So right now, we all know what's happening with the loans, and we all know what's happening with valuation. So whether it be bank, whether it be CBS, whatever,
CMBS.
Thank you, CMBS loans. Whatever it is, there's decisions making. So some decisions are easier because you have no choice, but some where banks have to make decisions. Should I hold it? Shouldn't I hold it? Should I get a better management company? Should I pop out the owner? Should I keep the owner? It's not his fault. There's so many decisions. The biggest decision is the valuation, because that makes the decision. How do you value a hotel right now when everything's Tango uniform?
I think that it's very challenging. I think that we should throw replacement cost out of the window. That's something that I was been going back and forth this week on LinkedIn with a gentleman out in California whom I've never met, but we've had a very cordial LinkedIn conversation about the 3 pillars of valuation, one of which, of course, is replacement cost. I think that one's useless right now. And it's, you look at it, a buyer looks at it and says, gee, I'm less than replacement cost. Well, in most cases, you wouldn't replace today. So being less than replacement cost is sort of meaningless, I think. So I'm looking at things that go back to 12/31/2019 and looking at trends for the first couple of months of this year and ignoring everything else. The challenge isn't how to look and say, all right, how we're going to value that cash flow. I think the challenge is when it's going to start coming back.
Right. Who knows when that's actually going to happen. So we're working in this kind of place where we're kind of in the dark and we don't really know what things are worth right now. Michael, I feel like people were holding on to valuations at the beginning of this as if, right? As if things were going to come back quickly, as if the end of 2020 would be like 2019 was. That obviously is not panning out. How is that kind of changing what's going on in the investment community out there?
Well, the only hotel that I know of any magnitude that has closed that provides any kind of a metric, and it was the Renaissance in Baltimore, about 650 keys. It had a contract between Sunstone and the buyer pre-COVID for about $100 million. That contract fell out,
right?
And then the same buyer came back and they closed on it recently for $80 million. So if you argue that the 100 was market value, that was a 20% discount to market value. I think buyers today and people with the rescue capital, runway money, preferred equity, all the different names that are being used and bandied about, buyers are probably looking at something between 35 and 40% discounts.
Right.
And sellers, of course, the ones that are still holding on are holding on at a higher number. As we go on in where we are, and I think that today's the 29th, 3 more days, and we're going to be at the end of the second 90-day period of forbearances, deferrals, and the CMBS guys have already said that they've been drinking out of the water hose,
right?
The fire hose, so that we're going to get another layer of those CMBS loans hitting the special servicers, I think August 1st, August 2nd. So the fire hose is only going to get even more water pressure coming through it for a little while.
So, Michael, but let's stay there for a second. Let's take CMBS. Let's take the 90 days. Let's take what's happening and tell people, because a lot of people don't understand it. I understand it somewhat. I understand enough to be dangerous. But tell us why they can't make some decisions and why they may be forced into other decisions. So tell what happens, like what happens at that moment, like when you're saying they're drinking out of the fire hose. explain that. Explain all that, because that's really kind of what the industry is waiting for.
Well, if a lender makes a loan on a hotel, they follow certain protocols and procedures in order to document that loan, because what they plan to do is sell that loan into a pool of other similar mortgages, and that's why they're as a security. And then they're going to tranche the ownership of that collateralized mortgage-backed security, CMBS.
Wait, I thought it stood for crap, my business sucks.
Nice. So typically the entity that makes that loan creates the security interest and then sells off tranches of the loan. The highest tranche is the most secure, the lowest interest rate. The next tranche, slightly less secure, slightly higher interest rate, and so on. And this could go all the way down to tranches like H and I and J. So that many slices of this securities package. At the very bottom is typically one of the sponsors has retained a 5, maybe even a 7 or 8% interest in the loan package as a whole. And there is somebody who is assigned the responsibility of receiving the debt service payments, and then distributing the debt service payments to each tranche holder of the securities package. At the point that the securities holders are no longer receiving payment, when and the person that's receiving the payment is the master servicer. At the point that there is no longer payment, certain other things happen that put that loan, the individual loan, into the potential risk of default, the so-called watch period. Then the master servicer is required by this 750-page, single-spaced, thick, dense, intense document called a pooling and services agreement and servicing agreement. They're required to effectively send the loan package to the special servicers. So if you think of the fact that by mid-July, we had some 1,600 CMBS hotel loans either in watch or in default because of the non-payment, the master servicer can only issue a forbearance. It cannot modify the terms of the loan in any other way. So that goes to the special servicer, who has authority that is built into the confines, the four corners of the 750-page document. And then the special servicer has to analyze each document, each loan on its own. Which ones have the likelihood of being worked out and recovering the loan amount for the entire pool of lenders, all the tranches? Which ones can get close? Which ones are going to be hopeless? And so what the special servicers are doing today is they're trying to look at each of these properties in turn to determine which one is likely to be worked out. And I suspect that most of the special servicers will keep those in-house. Which ones of them need a receiver because they're likely to go through foreclosure. The sponsors may declare bankruptcy, and they're getting these on a daily basis. And when you consider that there are probably a dozen large special servicers and then any number of smaller ones, then you've got the local banks, pension funds, insurance companies, all these other lenders who either have kept the loans on their balance sheet or divided them up among a very small syndicate of lenders. You've got a lot of loans that are being looked at on a case-by-case basis to see what to do something.
I have two questions.
I got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
All right. It's not simple.
Listen, I've been in this industry really a long time, and that is the best explanation I've ever received. And that I think anybody that has even a little bit interest in it will understand what you just said. But just for clarification, talk about receivership and then talk about the thought process when they're going through it. They're thinking about, well, the people that are the most secure in that loan are the ones they're thinking about, right? So the people who are less secure, they're probably going to get screwed at the end of the day. But the people who have that more secure loan, they're the ones that we're worried about, because we have to basically, we have to make sure that they get their money back to some degree. So let's talk about receivership. Explain to everybody how that works.
Well, this is a state-by-state matter. In fact, when we made our announcement of Frontline Real Estate Partners Hospitality Division in early June, which is a venture between a commercial real estate group, Frontline Real Estate Partners, and my friend Neil Freeman and myself, to create a hospitality vertical to do lender advisory work, including taking on receiverships. I went out and bought this book called the Tri-Guild Desk Book, which is a state-by-state analysis of the law on foreclosure, receiverships, and so on. Receivership is generally speaking, a court-appointed position that effectively steps into sort of a role as asset manager. If you've got hotel management capability or real estate management capability, you can step into the role of being the real estate manager as well, where you're basically a fiduciary to the court on behalf of the lender and the borrower, truthfully, but mostly you're dealing with the lender, where you have to make sure that the operations of the property, the cash flow, are proceeding as well as possible during this receivership period, pending a foreclosure and somebody taking ownership, a bankruptcy, if that's going to happen, by the property. And the receiver has a duty to the court to preserve and protect the security, the asset, and the cash from the property.
All right. that makes sense when you hear it, but it still leaves me with a whole lot of questions about how all of this stuff works, right? So why can't you make changes to CMBS stuff where you can with other types of loans, perhaps? So well, one thing we keep hearing over and over again is there's nothing we can do about CMBS because it's, I don't know, carved in stone or something like that. I don't know. Why is it like that? Why can't things be changed? Why does this have to be so difficult? And why can't the government step in to say, hey, we're here to help?
Well, I think there's some talk about the government stepping in. I think it adds a layer of complexity. Literally, these documents, the pooling and servicing agreements, are 750 to 800 pages. It is not for the faint of heart. It's very legalistic. But effectively, the special servicer has an obligation to the entire pool, that is the entire tranche holder, to try to get them the most return on their capital as they possibly can. And there are limits in the document as to what the special servicers can do in terms of modifying the loan.
Right.
And so though each of them is different, my guess is that if you looked at 100 of them, you'd be seeing minor differences among them. But the special servicers' capabilities are limited by what's in the documents for each tranche of loans and each tranche of investor.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, right now, they're just analyzing these properties that are being turned over to. They got to take the full mortgage file, presumably the big guys, Midland and KeyBank and CW Capital and Greystone, and several others, Citus. They all have a set of documents that they're very familiar with. Their borrowers are barely familiar with them because their borrowers only have the mortgage documents. And the mortgage documents acknowledge that they're going into this pool of securities. And I think every borrower who has taken advantage of a CMBS loan is naive if they think, gee, it's a better deal, it's non-recourse, and it's typically lower interest rates. But this circumstances where the CMBS loan is very challenging to deal with because the special servicers are trying to figure out what they've got, what's going on in each individual hotel. That's the smallest courtyard to Fontainebleau, which is a 975 million single asset, single borrower security.
Please tell me the Fontainebleau's not in danger. Please tell me that.
I'm an observer on that one. I'm sitting here looking at it from the.
You're observing, okay, and it's the bottom of the ninth, and somebody's up at bat. Are they going to win the game or are they going to lose the game? That's all I want to know.
Well, who is winning and who is losing?
Fountain Blue. I just want Fountain Blue to still be there when this is all over.
I have enough respect for the intelligence of the Sofer family, knowing that they've done 3 refinancings in the last 3 years and taking more money out each time, that they will figure out a way to come out of this.
They always do.
They'll probably end up writing, they'll give some of that money back, I suspect, but they'll come out of this continuing to own the Fountain Blue, is my guess.
Right.
I have no knowledge of this other than as a knowledgeable observer of this industry.
So when you're looking at the CMBS loans, and what people have to understand is if you have a different type of loan, maybe you can work it out. And like, listen, I just need some time. You don't have that opportunity in these kind of loans. It's because we have to save the entire family, not just this one person, and so this is really, this is what people get into these loans. They don't realize it because they're just so excited. They see their dream ahead of them. I signed this. This is the final loan. I finally got it all together, and they believe in me. And no, it doesn't work that way. And
here's where the challenge lies in that, though, is that I don't own, but let's assume I own a Des Moines, off the highway in Des Moines, a 7-year-old Hampton Inn. So whatever gen that was, but I built it. And let's assume it cost me $15 million to build 125 rooms, so about $125,000 a room. And I put up $5 million of equity from my friends and family locally, and borrowed $10 million from a local bank in Des Moines. And that bank continues to hold that loan. Their 90-day process is a lot different because banks have capital requirements, and the Fed has already given them some leeway on that. But another 90 days starts to go by, and they're starting to worry about having to reserve capital for the loss that they may take on that loan. And even though there is a personal relationship between my development group and that bank's hands are tied in a different way because they have capital requirements. And if they've been reasonably aggressive in the hotel space, they've got other loans that are similarly situated. So the even where the bank relationship exists, the banks are constrained. They want to get paid. And so they don't want to take that $10 million loan and sell it for $8 million because that's a $2 million write-off for a local banking group.
Right.
That could be a big number.
So you just gave a lesson on why it's so much easier to open up a restaurant than it is a hotel.
But traditionally, it's been harder to keep restaurants open than.
But we might be talking to Robert Irvine right now instead of Anthony Melchiori.
What was that? I didn't hear you.
So we might be talking to Robert Irvine instead of Anthony Melchiori.
Right. They actually wanted me to do a show with him, and just let's say it didn't work out. And I'll tell you why it didn't work out. But
he's a lot bigger than you are.
I'll keep my mouth shut. Don't ever bet against a guy from Brooklyn ever. So I don't care how tall I am. So, but my point being is that you go into a restaurant, you get a couple of friends, you open up a restaurant, it goes out of business, your friends hate you, and then you go on your way and you build a life somewhere else. That's what happens in the restaurants. A hotel, there's just so many more people involved. I'm watching a good friend of mine's hotel going up right now. It's a $50 million hotel. I think it's going to be unbelievably successful. But what people don't understand in the neighborhood where he's building this is the pressure that he's going to be on to make this successful because of all the different entities that are involved in the hotel. And I think they're going to make it, and I think they're going to do great. But there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot of money at stake. It's not, a couple $100,000 to open up a restaurant. Although, again, if that's all you have, that's everything to you. So, and you can look at it at the hotel. You're dealing with other people's money, so maybe you don't care as much. I don't know. Glenn, you were going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So there's so many loans that are defaulting right now and falling into the CMBS category that have to go to the special servicers. What is your take on the fact that you said it's kind of like a fire hose with so many of them coming at once? How does that change the dynamic, say, than if someone went into CMBS default a year and a half ago when the market was different and there weren't that many of them? Is it a situation, I think I'm asking, where there's so much volume that maybe it'll take such a long time, people have a chance to get their houses in order before it catches up to them? Or is a miracle going to happen on their special servicer side and they can wave their hands and do everything they need to immediately?
I don't think it'll be immediate. I had a conversation with my partners the other day where they've been talking to a number of special servicers. I've been trying to talk to people throughout our industry. And I used to think it was going to be sort of mid-August where we'd start to hear of receivers being appointed and so forth. But the problem is, once the receiver's appointed, there really isn't anybody home other than the receiver. And I assure you, I am not going to be the owner of, call it 15 properties if we get that many receiverships.
Right.
So where's the money going to come from to do what needs to be done? The special servicer through the loan pool have to be the ones that are prepared to provide the money. And that's one of the reasons why they're not appointing the receivers yet. They're not taking the keys back yet, because then they are effectively, even though not necessarily legally, the owner of the property. So we've got that issue. How do they put out how do they put that much money out? Where does the money go? So they're making a lot of internal decisions before they can actually decide, okay, on these 1,000 properties, we're going to go ahead and start to foreclose and take on ownership. And on those 500, we're going to continue to negotiate with the borrower to try to work them out. And I think you hear about it on an almost daily basis. Somebody's got rescue capital, somebody's coming in, somebody's looking at these assets. And of course, all those people with rescue capital, which is equity or preferred debt or mezzanine type debt that will go into an asset that requires the sponsor, the lender, including the special servicer, and the new money to have this three-way agreement as to what's going to happen with this property in order for them to put new money into it. It's a complex negotiation, so that the special servicers really have to it's not getting their houses in order. I think it's beefing up their staffing so that they've got the kind of people necessary to deal with it. And yeah, a year and a half ago, if one of the CMBS loans had gone bad, they had sufficient staff to deal with one at a time.
Right.
But right now, there are borrowers who will tell you that they're not even hearing from their special servicers yet. And I think that's a matter of staffing back up. It's a matter of trying to decide when the onslaught is going to end. I think that we'll see a little bit of lessening of transfer. The terminology used is transfer from the master servicer to the special servicer. I think our onslaught will be a little bit less after starting next week. Once the flood of the July 31 90-day forbearances hit their desk, so call it mid-August, when they have maybe a bit of breathing space. And so that I think that maybe another month after that, we'll start seeing a bit more of activity in the appointments of receivers.
Right.
And then, but again, some of these hotels that are in receivership or will be going through the special servicer into receivership, they haven't reopened yet. So there's no fount of cash coming in. And, we're just starting to see the reopenings now.
All right. So let's kick the can down the road 6 months from now, 8 months from now, whatever it is. How does this reshape valuations in general? Are there going to be a lot more properties coming online? And because there's only X amount of dollars in the marketplace, will that deflate the valuations of the property? Number one, because there may not be enough buyers, but number two, because properties aren't going to make nearly as much money for the next few years as they were the previous years. Then after that, I want to see how this compares to the last crisis that we had.
Well, I do think that, and again, I can't predict the timing exactly, but I think probably first quarter next year, we'll start seeing activity where hotels are being sold. I think there's plenty of money coming into the space and sitting on the sidelines right now. Whether plenty enough to rectify all of this, I do think that there will be substantial discounts from the high that we may have been seeing, and certainly into 19. I think asset prices were going for numbers that were pretty high.
And people paying premium prices because they were banking on the long term, right?
Correct.
And to your point, Michael, there were people sitting on the side of the river just waiting. I mean, literally for years. I know two of my friends who've got piles of cash, and they're sitting on that riverbank going, I'm waiting to jump in.
Right.
And when it goes, it's going to be bad. And I got so much money. I'm going to buy everything. Blackstone's got to watch out. Like, I got so much money. Right. And then they get $1 million and they buy a little hotel. But anyway,
I don't think Blackstone ever has to watch out for anything. But
I know,
that's
right?
another story.
Right.
I think that there is a lot of money. I think there's going to be a lot of overseas money coming in from East and West. And I think that we'll see a reckoning. I do think that we will see a lot of equity in properties that is reduced to being worth very little, depending on their going in capital structure. I don't think some properties will go for 40-50% of pre-COVID value, because those are the ones that will be the most challenged in terms of reopening, ramping up. I don't even have a projection or a prognostication at all for the large group hotels in major urban markets.
Right, of course.
I just think that that's going to be ugly for a little while.
Right.
As they say in my country, shit show.
Right. Yeah. Totally. So, Michael, we've got one comment from Chris Booth who says, but this is the same as the 2008 crash. Bad loans securitized and packaged to allow more borrowing by the bankers. Do you agree with that statement? If so, why? If not, tell us why.
Well, and again, this is a comment rolling by, and it's clearly short and brief.
But to be fair, Chris is British, so he's probably looking at it a little differently.
I'd like to say it's a little cynical. I think that it is true, and I mean, the difference here, I think, is that a lot of 2008 was residential.
Right.
Much less commercial, and there was the derivatives and the hedges and those kind of bets. If anybody saw The Big Short or read the book,
saw the movie.
By the way, another guy that went to the same high school as I did, who wrote the book. I think that was a lot of more financial manipulation than this was. And I think when the loans were made on these properties, for the most part, they were made on reasonably sound economic principles.
Mm-hmm.
I think the result may be similar, without as much finger pointing and Wall Street bashing on these, because it's all commercial. It's that people will be hurt equally badly, and I don't minimize that.
Right.
If they're hurt because of commercial investments rather than they overbought, over-leveraged themselves on buying a house that was more house than they needed and cost more than they really could afford.
Yeah. As soon as I read it, I felt the same way. That I think it was a little bit skeptical question, or based on skepticism. That was bait and switch. This was good economics. Everybody knows who's been in this business for the last 5 or 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. These loans were all based on good economics, and there was a lot of thought into most of these loans. These were not, for a number of reasons, because people on both ends are smarter and don't want to get caught up in the same thing. So I think that was exactly kind of the right answer, because people are going to get hurt, but it wasn't intentional, and it wasn't because somebody else was trying to make money off somebody else's back. Everybody's trying to make money, but I think the other was just kind of bait and switch, and it was kind of it was a lot. Yeah, it was just like those loans shouldn't be made. There's no one, and most of the loans that I've looked at in the last 5 years, there's not a loan that I've looked at and said, this is unfair. Like, this is based on good economics, and I would put my own money into this loan.
That doesn't mean there's not going to be pain. Doesn't mean that some of those properties that the loans were made on at times when times were good are going to be as successful when we get on the other side of this as they were previously.
Right.
So, I mean, there was an article in I saw in BizNow this morning, and it was as many as 8,000 American hotels might be gone by October, and that follows on, and they mention, and there was some talk about 25,000 hotel rooms in New York City never reopened.
Right.
So we're going to lose hotel stock.
But
I
if
mean,
you
we're
look
going to lose supply.
But if you look at New York City, well, right now, and I didn't want to bring it up yesterday because I was trying to feel a good show, but there's about 100, I'll call it 120. I think there's more than that. 120 hotels, and I think there's only 500 or 600 hotels in all of New York City. There's 120 hotels, and some part or all of those hotels are part of a homeless shelter. And that in and of itself tells you how big the problem is in the city and how big the problem is in economics, because these people are trying to just keep their hotels going. And so anyway, if you look 10 years ago, there were 75,000 rooms in New York City. There's now 125,000.
Right.
So and like another 100 in various stages of development as well.
I don't think it's that much, but it's quite a number. So you can kind of argue that yes, there's going to be damage and yes, there's going to be a lot of pain, but that 25,000 rooms isn't a tragedy, because I think if you're 75,000, you go down to 25,000, you only have 50,000 in New York City. That's a problem. I think at 125 to 130,000,
right?
It's just part of the evolution. And would you say? I want to go back to a question or something we were talking about before, when you said that hotel was $100 million, now it's $80 million, and the owner said, okay, we'll sell it now at $80 million. If you shake out, right, you get your crystal ball and you shake out a 20-year factor in the hotel business evaluation of that property, wouldn't you say I should follow it that way. I read it that way. Is it possible that 80% value really is the proper value of that property over a 20-year period?
It's possible. I think that the interesting thing was that the debate that I had with the gentleman in California was, he was saying that it sold at 40% of replacement cost. And I said, I don't think that's
give people what that means.
Replacement cost, the cost to build the hotel today, if it was destroyed and needed to be rebuilt.
Right.
So, and my comment was that I don't think that's a valid metric. And of course, then we went back and forth between appraisal principles and procedures, where replacement cost is one of the valuation metrics. And what I'm saying to him is that I've never really believed replacement cost, because I learned from a very wise man that if I was looking at most hotels on a replacement cost basis, I probably would not replace them as they were. And so, but I do think that today, particularly because replacement cost is high and values have been depressed by COVID, that you can't really use that as a legitimate metric today, if it ever is. And then I thought about it, and I didn't say this in our LinkedIn debate going back and forth, but Jake Sharp, if you're listening, even the deal prior to COVID, if this is 40% of construction value, is a 20% reduction, means it was being sold for 50% of replacement value even before we had the COVID crisis. So somebody had already said, I'm not looking at 100% of replacement value as a metric because I'm already at 50%. So I think that the question is, when you look at things like how much capital really goes into a 650 room downtown hotel on an ongoing basis, it's way more than the FF&E reserve for that property. So that's new capital going in. If you look at the cost of capital, that hotel happened to be owned by a real estate investment trust. It had a lower cost of capital than if the three of us went to buy a hotel and we had to raise money from private equity. So there are so many different factors that enter into how one looks at a valuation, that 80 million can be the right number, the 100 million can be the right number, maybe 120 million, but it could also be 60 million, depending on what happens over the next 5 years in downtown Baltimore.
All right. And if I can just do a public service announcement, I know there's a lot to pick up here, and there's a lot of people who are just casual listeners, love the hotel business, travel, some maybe front office managers, and never really saw behind the scenes. And one of the reasons, as a general manager or vice president or an asset manager, or as an asset manager, why I take my job so seriously is because I understood at a relatively early age what's at risk for owners and for banks. And so I took my job seriously. So when you're a general manager, this is a small business with a lot of repercussions if it doesn't succeed. So I think it's really worth, if you really kind of get a pen and pencil, really pay attention to what he's saying, because he's the best at what he does. There's so much to learn here. And I mean, just in a little while, I've learned. And I think it's so important because this business is fantastic and it's passionate. And when people say, I love this business because I love the people business, I love this business because I love the business of the business. And you're really teaching us the business of the business. So thank you. I just wanted to clear that we understand that this isn't our typical show. I'm purposely, and Glenn is purposely really driving and digging down here because there's a lot of people that need this knowledge because their buildings and their hotels are at risk. And their financial future is at risk. So I think it's a very valuable hour to do this. So thank you, Michael. I'm sorry, Glenn.
No, don't apologize to me. Michael's giving great information, and I think it was really important to get that out there. So let's dig down a little bit more. Steve Erasmo says, how will the current state of CMBS loans affect the vast pipeline of planned hotel projects going forward? And then secondly, I'd like to have you throw in on that. If we're going to lose so many hotels, what does that mean to the overall health of the hospitality industry, not the individual investor?
Well, the pipeline is, there's always a big pipeline. I think that no one is going to get construction financing today on any kind of terms that look like what they would have gotten 6 or 8 months ago. So the person, the developer, the entity who can get a construction loan today has an absurd relationship with a lending institution.
Right.
I don't think new construction CMBS is out there. So it's going to be the insurance company, the pension fund, the private equity fund that has allocated for some new construction, or local banks. I believe that if you really look at a hotel as a local business and you look at the comp set for a particular hotel, there's always going to be some location somewhere that has demand for a new hotel, whether it's, a 100-room Fairfield off the highway someplace where other development is going on around it, a new office park that has no hotels close enough, or it's on a toll system somewhere where it's a pain to get off and then try to circle back where the toll exit is. There's always going to be a reason to do a hotel on a local basis.
Right.
I think so. We're speaking very broadly here because in the micro, you can analyze an individual location and say, hey, it's really got a good opportunity. But from a 10,000 or 30,000 foot perspective, I think construction is going to slow down. I think that one of my great concerns, having had 2 children who went through hotel programs in university and have hotel degrees, and seeing the kids who are coming out of school today. I had a conversation a week and a half ago with a young woman who has been a director of front office for a brand and then for a third-party management company. Kids who are recent graduates.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, there's a whole possibility of losing an entire generation of hotel employees here.
We talked about doing that show. Glenn, we talked about doing a show for the kids, right? I want to do a show. I want to bring on the experts, human resources experts, maybe a psychologist, and really talk about that. Because 6 weeks ago, I was saying, stay the course. This is a great industry. Now I'm in between. I'm saying, for people like me, stay the course. Whereas, I can't do anything else, even when I was 20. It's just impossible. I will sweep streets. I will work in Dunkin' Donuts, but I will get back to this business, and I just can't do it. I'd rather just not be here. I got to do this business. If you're kind of like, well, I was kind of thinking about being an interior designer, or maybe I want to go to medical school, or whatever. It's like, but look at it, to take a year off of the business, breathe. Like there's a couple of people I'm talking to right now, and they're in college, really smart kids, and they're thinking about maybe the military. They weren't thinking about it. They never thinking about it. And I'm an Air Force guy. I would only say go in the Air Force. So I was like, hey, maybe now's the time. Take a couple of years off, go in the Air Force, because you're not going to miss much. That I'm pretty sure about. You're not going to miss much. If you are in an opportunity where you're interning at Blackstone, if you're interning for one of these really big funds, you will miss something. If you're there, don't leave because you're on a rocket ship. You're on a rocket ship. But if you're not, you may be in an opportunity where it's like, this may be a good time to give yourself an excuse to tap out just for a year or 2 or 3 and then come back. But those people that just are, have jet fuel in their bones for this industry, stay. And you will find something, because we're always, and also, and I hate to say it, there's a lot of people our age going to be out. They're going to get a package, they're going to leave. And they're going to ask a younger person to come in at a much cheaper salary, and they're going to give a lot more responsibility. And their rocket ship will be able to go a lot further as well. So it's a scary thing. And I put a lot of thought into that the last couple of weeks. I get that question on a daily basis, 10 times a day from kids, and it's got to be in your DNA.
To the point you were making about understanding the business side, I have always thought there's a difference between hotel business, the business of the business, and the hotel business.
The hotel business, business of hotels.
I would say if we have any college age kids, and they are kids to me. I think I could actually be a grandfather of a college age kid. I'm not, but I could be. I think that some of the hotel schools, particularly the larger state schools, don't teach as much on the business side. I think Houston's an exception, and UNLV, of course, is an exception. Michigan State is an exception, but UCF, New Hampshire, I think Penn State has some of the business side. Delaware has some of the business side. But if you can't take a program that teaches management contracts, franchise agreements, hotel finance, go take it in the business school. Take the accounting class. I mean, when I've lectured to entry-level students, the sort of survey course on hotel management, we have this weird accounting system that only applies to the hotel industry. And I tell them, learn that. I had to come to it and learn it. And I never took a finance class, never took an accounting class, but I somehow understood, if I understood the uniform system, I'd understand what's important, because where the money goes is what's important. So take the things, if there's an opportunity to take a course on the business of real estate of hotel real estate in your hospitality program, take that class.
I remember when I got the first vice president job at Tishman as an asset manager, and I was I was just not in the right role at that moment. And I remember struggling, and I remember someone saying, Anthony, you were in the hotel business, now you're in the business of hotels. And that is a completely different business. Just talking about what you were saying, I realized, because I love the financing of it. I love accounting. I love the business side of it, that if I would have had that lesson and I would have went to that school and I would have had somebody pushing me, like if I had you saying, hey, go to this side, I probably would have loved that just as much, maybe even more. I don't think I'd be as good a hotelier, because I don't think if you don't have 5 years operational experience, you shouldn't be making decisions on $1 billion hotels. That's just my opinion. But anyway, or at least be an asset manager of $1 billion hotel. But this to me is what I like, and what I also try to tell young managers is, you have to understand the ownership and how the hotel was financed. One of the first things I ask a kid when they're going for a job, even a front office manager job, ask your boss how the hotel was financed, and they're like, "What? He won't know." It's like, maybe he won't, but find out, because the way it was financed will tell me if this is a company that's going to help you grow in your business or not. Because if it was financed, like when I was in 1990 and I went to the Plaza Hotel and it was financed, on a hope and prayer and what that mess was. And I wasn't there for 100 years. I wasn't going to build my reputation on the owner or the Plaza Hotel for 100 years. I was there to get the name on my resume and leave. But if you're looking to stay with a company for a long time, or a hotel for a long time, you got to make sure it's not on quicksand. And the Plaza Hotel in 1990 was on, I wouldn't even say quicksand. It was on worse than quicksand.
I think every general manager should have the hotel's management agreement and, if appropriate, franchise agreement in her top drawer, and have it earmarked, having read it so many times, because that gets into what is your owner really looking for. And if you can understand your owner, and I've never met a general manager who didn't know who the owner was. So what the owner's needs are in the hotel are equally important to the operation of the hotel as any other aspect of it. And, my fear is that a general manager is a great hotelier, but has no fundamental understanding of the finance side of the operation. It cannot be someone like Anthony, who is at the top of the game.
When I was working for Mill Global, and Dave Johnstone wanted me to run the Algonquin Hotel, and he said to me, and I finally decided I'll do it, and he goes, listen, this is how much we bought it for. This is how much we need to get out of it. This is the problems. Don't F it up. And he didn't say F. He goes, I've said it before, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Like, don't mess this up. My career is on the line here. Okay. And I was like, sir, yes, sir. Like, every decision I made was based on that conversation. Every decision I made was based on that conversation, because I know if I did not do that, my reputation would suffer. Dave Johnson would beat the crap out of me, and I'm done. And so, like, to me, it was so beautiful and clear and almost magical. It's like that pressure is like where I live. It's like, I don't like gray. It's like, it is or it isn't. Like, you don't do this, you're screwed. You do this, you'll be okay. And so I think your advice, Michael, is well taken. And also, if you're in a union property, make sure right next to that owner agreement, you have the CBA agreement, and you know that just as well.
Exactly.
All right. So let me jump in here, because we're really running low on time, and I'm getting so many great questions from the audience. I want to bring up one from Joseph Hacker, who's asked many of them. And while I'm bringing it up, I would like to say he does different content on the internet, one of which is going to be the Drunken History of Hotel Design, premiering in September, which I may be a part of, talking about Las Vegas history. So if you want to see me embarrass myself, tune in for that. So Joseph is asking, will we see a shift from larger hotels to smaller Airbnb boutique hotel model from all of this? And I would say, Michael, before you answer here, according to Lodging Econometrics, the average size of a mid-scale property, the bread and butter properties in our business, has been shrinking for the last number of years. So where do you see this going forward? And then for our final topic, I want to talk about REIT. So let's get in on this.
I think it's a great question. And again, I think a lot of it depends on where we are with COVID. If the work from home model, the virtual meetings model really sticks post-COVID, and we don't have a vaccine soon, so that there won't be the kind of, blanket immunity capability, then I think that we're going to have a real challenge with the large hotels. Some of those are going to go out of business and close and be converted to residential or senior housing or something like that for people like me who are getting old. And we most certainly will see a reduction of the average size of properties. I think if all the work that's going on in the vaccine comes to fruition, and first quarter next year, 300 million and 200 million Americans can get a vaccine, I think that people will be hungry to go back to large scale meetings just for the sake of getting out of their houses. And we may have a bit more momentum shifting back to the large convention group of if this lingers, however, I think that it's very likely that we'll see the smaller hotels with strong cleanliness standards, I might add, that people will start to travel, but differently.
Right.
They won't be going for one-on-one 2-hour meetings like all of us used to do. It'll be, are there reasons? Is there a reason for me to go from Chicago to Washington, D.C. to meet with developers or other owners or people and try to string those where I've got a couple of days of meetings that are one-on-one, one-on-two, three of us, three different groups trying to meet together. And the group hotels are going to be in trouble.
Yeah, all of that makes perfect sense. So we've got one more question from Tom Wilkinson. Whoop. I was saying I will take care of it for him. Sorry, David. Enough time to discuss REITs? No real direction on it. How about your just general observation about the state of the REIT business?
Well, first of all, explain to people that don't know what a REIT is.
Real estate investment trusts, right? So real estate investment trusts, they have some taxation laws that they can follow that allows people to pool all their money to invest in real estate asset classes, in this case, hotels. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Fair enough. And some public and some are actually private. So you got
like Pebblebrook would be an example of a REIT. We've had on Ray Marks. We're working on getting him back, as a matter of fact.
And a company like, who's a private REIT these days? So Watermark was until recently, and as you saw, that Watermark just got a significant, I think, $250 million capital infusion to allow it to continue to work. Real estate investment trust is basically designed so that the mom and pop investor can invest in real estate, and in this case, hotel real estate. And the tax ramifications are such as that the REIT itself doesn't pay a corporate income tax as long as it meets certain requirements. The largest REIT out there right now is Host Hotels, a spinoff from Marriott.
Right.
Park Hotels, a spinoff from Hilton. Xenia, Diamond Rock, Sunstone, which was the seller of the Baltimore property. Pebblebrook, you mentioned. There are RLJ, there are a ton of them. And the REITs, because they're public companies, their cost of capital is typically lower than what an individual developer can get. By the same time, and at the same time, they can pool a lot of properties to borrow credit at the corporate level and put mortgages on 6 or 7 properties. They end up doing investment banking type borrowing. And because they can typically, in a typical marketplace, they can sell more stock at or close to their current stock price. They can raise equity at a lower price, giving them more bandwidth to buy hotels. The flip side of that is that when a REIT's properties are not delivering revenue, as we are seeing in a lot of cases today, they have to max out on their lines of credit. And so they become more heavily leveraged. And again, until they have revenue coming in, they can't pay back their debt like everybody else.
Right.
What I just looked at the Pebblebrook stock price, and the Pebblebrook stock price is the lowest it's been for a long time.
Most of them are down.
Right. And but what's scary if you look at it is I don't think it's going to come up anytime soon. I don't think this is like in some, like right now the stocks are all over the place. But I think when you look at a stock like that, it's like this has got to shake out because this is based on real metrics, and so this is going to be a longer time kind of stock to really watch. There's no way that stock's going to turn around back to $44 in a month or 2 months or 3 months. This is going to be, I think, a couple of years where, and again, I have a lot of faith in those guys. I have a lot of faith in our industry. But again, in the beginning, we're thinking maybe June, July we'll be back. Then we're like, hey, maybe the end of the year. And now we all know where we're going. We all know it's going to be a couple of years, and this is going to be real pain. We're going to get through it, but it's going to be real pain. And your ability to really understand it, explain it to us, and explain it to the layman out there really tells you kind of where we are. And that's why even more those people that do travel that are listening to the show, please travel. You can travel safely. You can, you're not going to Miami right now. I get that. But we're going to Connecticut tomorrow. You can travel safely. I'm going to go to Vegas soon. I've been saying that for 6 months.
Be careful because Connecticut just increased its quarantine list. So you go to Connecticut, you may have to, be in.
No, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut are all together. So they all go together. So they're opening kind of at the same stages. So the governors did the smart thing and say, hey guys, why don't we do this together? Because Connecticut comes to Jersey, Jersey comes to New York.
Right.
So yeah, they. But that's why I didn't go to Miami or California. I'm watching actually Vegas because is Nevada on that list? Because if so, I'm not going to Vegas.
Yeah, I think
I had to cancel a trip to visit my grandsons this month in Phoenix. So,
all right. I will say this though, Anthony, you will be at the Mohegan Sun Resort tomorrow.
God
So
will.
you got that going for you.
God
Right?
will.
you guys will be live together?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna be
Oh.
live together, but separately. Because
We've
we've actually worked it out to be in 2 different locations. Plus, Anthony's going to be a little bit on the go, and we're going to be doing an interview with the president of the resort over there. So, Michael, this has been going on a lot longer than we expected because it's been such a great, interesting conversation. How about wrapping up everything today in something very succinct that's going to blow everyone away? But Anthony's got to sideline that.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
What's an abbreviation in the industry that you use a lot and people like you use a lot that most people have no idea what the hell you're talking about?
Wow.
Because we have so many in this industry. That's why I keep telling you guys to explain it, because I know them, but most people don't.
Most of the stuff that I use, of course, is on the transaction side. So I use one that I don't know whether I created it, but I call it the PATSA,
And what's that mean?
Pre-Opening Technical Services Agreement.
Oh,
So PATSA is my favorite.
Patsa. All right, I'm going to remember that. And if somebody in the room, when I use it next time, if I remember it, knows it, then I know somehow they have a connection to you.
There you go.
Excellent. Well, now I'm hungry. Michael, how about finishing stuff up for us?
I think we're going to feel some pain for another few months before any of this comes out. And even if there is the vaccine, as I hope there will be, I think it's just a matter of staying the course. There's not a whole lot we can do. Reopenings are starting, and we're seeing some glimmers. One of the hotels that I'm advising on reopened on Friday. We exceeded the projections because projections are worthless today.
Right.
And we're hoping we can get to the break-even point pretty soon. That we accelerated the opening by about 3 weeks, and we're hoping that come the end of August, we'll be at operating break-even. That doesn't cover debt, but operating and real estate taxes, insurance, and the below-the-line items, and just hope that these glimmers and green shoots keep happening.
So are there any property, any hotel, big convention halls, whatever, that people are looking at in a different way to use it, a different use that kind of surprise you? Because I think what you're going to start seeing is hotels, maybe there'll be a homeless shelter, maybe there'll be an old age home, maybe whatever there'll be, senior living, whatever you want to call it. Is there any hotel that you're hearing about or any creative ideas out there? He's like, oh, wow, I never thought of using a hotel for that. Maybe like a school. Who knows?
I had a conversation with a group last week that talked about taking a hotel and making it affordable senior living in a marketplace that needs that. A couple of other conversations about taking effectively urban boutique hotels and converting them to residential. When you think about it, those room sizes, particularly some of the renovated hotels, they're 300 square feet. I think the notion is to because they all have the plumbing risers and so forth, they could combine 2 and make a nice small 1-bedroom unit. So there's a lot of that conversation going on where particularly some of these urban hotels. What I haven't thought about is what happens to the 1,000-room group hotels. And I don't think anybody's come up with something that makes any sense for the large group hotels with the kind of 150 square foot per room meeting space capability.
I got an idea, Michael.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to hear
I'm
it?
all ears.
Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
You have to wait till we're finished, and I'll tell you after the show's done if you have 5 minutes.
I'm fine. I'm good.
I'd like to
What
get
are these, Anthony?
No, I think a partner of mine. I think there's something there. So I'd like to get your opinion.
All right. Sure. Awesome. Michael, shameless plug for yourself. If anyone earned it, you definitely did today.
Four Corners Advisors, a newly renovated and overhauled website, which is my commitment to be here for another 5 years. And just the way it sounds, FOUR Corners Advisors. And I'm always on my phone, always on the computer.
Excellent.
Michael, you're that smart kid in class that I couldn't keep up with, but also can play football and hang out and like drink a beer.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a compliment. Thanks, Anthony.
I could drink a beer. That's about all I could do on that list of things. But Michael, thank you so much for being here. You are absolutely fantastic, and we're going to get you back here again.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you soon.
All right. So,
all right.
Glenn, I got to tell you, you know me as the Hotel Impossible guy. You know me as the guy who's loud and I talk about cleaning and all that. So people really know that side of me. What you don't know, and maybe you do, and I love this more than that almost. Maybe I do love it more. I'm embarrassed to say it.
Why? Why be embarrassed?
I can sit in a meeting like that, and I'll be the last person standing. I can listen to somebody like Michael, like for hours, and other people will be like, "All right, I'm done." I'm just saying, "No, Michael, I want one more question. One more question.
Yeah.
One more question." Like, because it is so. Somebody actually, it was a comment that I thought was brilliant. It was a comment that said, "This is so." What was the word? It's so sensitive, or whatever it was. Like, the complexity of this business we call the hotel business is so delicate. That was the word they used. It's so delicate, and that's why I love being in the pilot seat for so long and running these things, because my housekeepers had no idea what the motivation of the owner was. They had no idea what the motivation of the union.
There we go.
The motivation. Like, they had a great, Daniel, that was a great comment. And I just love, like, it is so, and your job as a leader or a manager, whatever you want to call yourself, is to, nobody really cares about every single person, what's important to them. Like, the guy who's about to sell the hotel for the owner, once we hit the number, doesn't care that the housekeeper's kid needs to go to college.
Right.
Okay. And to be able to be the guy in the pilot seat that has to care about all of it, it's just the greatest challenge. And I could not think of a better business that really blows your brains out every second. Would you have thought, based on the metrics and based on what everything has happened in our industry and being in this industry as long as we have, that something like COVID comes and basically tells us to say, hey, by the way, guys, really didn't. Slap back. Now you really have to become business people. Now you really have to think. Now you have to be real creative. That's what you just said. Like, anybody can ride a rocket ship that's that's comfortable. Yeah, well, okay, we're all going. Now, well, you have to build the rocket ship. It's no longer you have to sit back in a rocket ship. Now you have to build the damn thing. And I think our industry is just got slapped in the face and said, you know what? We got to rebuild. We got to rebuild the way we think about this. And I think Michael really inspired me, and I think hopefully got a young manager or a young person in this industry, or even an older person, and really taught them the business of hotels.
Right. Yeah, totally. And in that spirit, let's if you guys want to do a little bit more learning, go check out our latest Hotel Reboot show, which is on refinancing and reinvesting. Follows very nicely into what we talked about. We have some very, very high profile guests. They're going to teach you about some of those fundamentals that you need to know. So check it out at hotelreboot.com.
What people don't know, Glenn, you and I just had a meeting about this morning, that we've been certified as a college. No Vacancy Live is certified as a college. So we're going to give you a test at in about a month. And if you pass this 50-page test, it's a very big test.
Very big.
You have to listen to every single one of our podcasts. And if you pass that test, you get a bachelor's degree in the hotel business.
Excellent. And this is definitely a real university. Don't expect anything else.
Something like somebody else's university.
That's why I was just choosing. I was going to go there and chose not to go there.
But
rest assured, New York State will not be chasing us down.
But I will tell you this. I was kidding, but I am telling you, if you listen to this 100 or 200 shows that we put in and you really become a student of it, I guarantee you will learn more from these people who are coming on our show than you'll learn in a year of college. And I hate to say it, but these are the best and brightest in the world. They've seen it. They know it. They taste it. Their money's involved. Their reputation's involved. And they're coming out here and they're laying their soul bare. And it is absolutely like, I have the best job in the friggin' world.
Anthony, I've got the best job in the freaking world because I get to work with you.
Glenn, do me a favor. That pillow in the back is a little crooked. Can you fix it for me?
What's crooked?
the pillow on the couch. Can you go?
Oh yeah, you mean the non-existing living room in a house that I can't afford? I'll go work on that right away.
All right. All right. Great show, my brother. And listen, I said it before, I'll say it again. The reason the show is great, yes, we have good connections. That's fine. It's our guests. And most of the guests are coming through you, man. And our producer, David. And I will tell you that if we don't have good guests, we don't have a good show. So when people say this is a 50-50 show, crap, this is 90-10. I show up, he gets great guests, and we have a great show. So
that's very generous of you to say, but it is really all about the guests, even though Anthony and I love doing this every day. Without them, this show wouldn't be nothing. But hey, without you guys out there, we would be nothing. So thank you so much for tuning in every day and helping us create this community. What you've done for us is you've really given us direction. You've given us hope. You've given us something to do every single day that we feel is meaningful and impactful. So thanks for letting us come into your homes. Any final thoughts before we go?
And Colleen, we love you, man. Daniel, we love you. They're here every day. They're here before we are.
Yeah, right?
All right. Just tomorrow, we're doing a behind the scenes of kind of what you look for in a hotel to take a hotel from a brand to an independent.
But that's not our regular show. That's something that you're doing tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
That's my show at 3 o'clock. Facebook Live. Go to Hospitality Success. Go to my Facebook page, Anthony, wherever the hell it is, Anthony Hotels, and you will find us 3 o'clock. Me and my partner Jeremy. She's a wizard, and we will be talking about why it's important. And I'll say this now, and I'll say tomorrow. But what's really important is whether you want a car wash, or whether you run a bank, or whether you work at McDonald's, or you do a hotel. It is so important to really know the reason why, because the reason we can make quick decisions is because we know why.
Right.
The reason I can go into a hotel or a business and make really quick decisions because I know what's behind curtain number one. I know it, because I've been doing it and like see that information that Michael just laid down today. Like I've been listening to people like him in meetings my whole life, and I take notes and I obsess over it, like crazy obsess over it. And so when I'm in a situation, I've listened to the best and I've kind of seen it. And so this is really kind of understanding why it's important to understand why the housekeeper and the banker, what they do. And if you know what they do individually, you can make really quick decisions.
And you can also figure out a lot of different avenues for your career to take. It's not just about working at the property level. There are so many job opportunities out there, things that will challenge you in your mental capacity and help you make you a better person. All right.
If I was in a position, I would literally tell Michael, hey, teach me the business, this side of the business. I want in. I'll take a salary cut. I'll do whatever I need to do. I want to learn it. I would do it right now if I was 25 again. Right now, I'm not really interested in working that hard to learn something else.
And we talked about this yesterday. Simon Sinek, what's your why? Yeah. I wish we could just make more.
Can I say something I really want to say?
Yes, please do. You
can read all the management and leadership books in the effing world. Okay, you can listen to Simon Sinek, which I do, and I think he's inspiring and everything. Worry about you. Worry about how you show up. Worry about your why. Worry about how you treat people. So, yes, it's great to read the book, but I've known more people that have read those damn books that suck at their job, that suck at leadership, that suck at management. And they quote up their ass like this quote and that quote and that quote. But then you take a housekeeper and you treat her like shit. Or you take a front desk clerk and you don't give them a good evaluation. So yes, that's important to get inspired. Okay, but if you want to learn leadership, you want to learn management, pay attention to the person in the room. Pay attention to the person in front of you. Pay attention to the way you treat the person that's giving you groceries. So yes, that to me, read those books to be inspired. But if you want to learn, you've got to pay attention and you've got to take those little moments in life. And so I always say, if you can't write the book, you shouldn't read the book. And what I mean by that is, I can't write that book. Okay, that specific book. But I can write a book of what worked for me. And so what worked for Simon, it doesn't work for everyone. You have to really take those books, read those books, be inspired by those books, but you have to practice those books every single day. I had a friend of mine, I wouldn't say a friend, but somebody I knew that had literally an entire room in his house full of books. Okay? He went bankrupt. He lost everything, lost his family, lost everything. And is not a nice person to be around. He read every one of those books. Okay? So the way you show up yes, I would read a book that Michael wrote, but it doesn't mean that it's the end all be all. And I think so many people get involved in these books and these quotes, and they'll get on the Gary V bandwagon, or they'll get on the Grant Cardone bandwagon, or they'll get on Oprah bandwagon, whatever, which I'm a fan of all those people. But at the end of the day, your brand belongs to you. Take that as influence. Don't take that as law. Don't take that as the holy gospel.
Well, I take everything you say as the holy gospel, Anthony. Just so we know. I think what you said is absolutely right on point, Anthony. I think that sometimes we look at books and other sources of materials as that silver bullet, the thing that's going to really help us be successful. But if you don't put in the effort, if you don't make the connections, if you don't listen to the people that you admire and respect, well, all of that is just going to be words on a page. They're not going to be able to activate your life and make you a better person. So sure, those books could be helpful, but getting out there and doing the do as important as reading the philosophies and the theories behind it.
You got to do the do.
You got to do it. And I'm going to do something right now. I'm going to pack up the studio and get it up to Mohegan Sun so we can broadcast there live tomorrow.
Listen, sometimes you got to do the do. And you know, I want to say one other thing, because I was listening to a podcast, and you got to do the stuff you don't want to do. It's like you got to I don't write things down, but like you've got to do, like right now. Your life is changed. Every one of our life has changed. And there are things that we don't want to do to change our life, that we know there's more work. It's like, I did all this work, and I have to do this again? Yeah, you do. And you don't have to talk about it. You don't got to put it on Instagram. You got to tell everybody, oh, how wonderful you are.
Right.
Put in the work that you know you need to put in. Put in the hard work.
That's right.
I walk away from hard work sometimes, and then I slap myself and I walk away from it again, because I'm sometimes lazy, but then I eventually get back to it. And if you want to get to that next level, you want to be the Grant Cardone, you want to be the Oprah Winfrey, you want to be the Gary V. Well, you know what? I will tell you this. I don't work 1% as hard as any of those three people, because I don't want to be them. I want to be me.
Right.
But I couldn't work at that level, because I don't want to work 20.
Right. No, right. Yeah, that's all they do.
I don't want to walk into, I don't want Oprah's lifestyle. I want my lifestyle. So find out what's right for you and stop following people. Use them as an influence, because those people don't want you to be them. Gary Vee will tell you straight up, what the hell are you looking to try to be me for? Be you.
Right.
And that's kind of what gets me a little crazy, when people just quote the crap out of books, man. Quote yourself.
Perfect place to leave it. Subscribe now to our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. Easy enough. Just one word, hotel, 66866. Thanks for a great show, Michael Shindler.
I will say one other thing, my friend Glenn.
Yes?
I have to be out with a book, so make sure you quote that book.
I will.
All right,
all right, guys. See you all tomorrow from Mohegan Sun. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on, and
please be kind to yourself.
all right, see you all tomorrow, people.